when you're in pain, soothing as a springtime rain, to have a friend right in your corner. Your heart will feel a little warmer. Tender loving care, tender loving care. Each warm and friendly touch lets someone know you care so much. Tender loving care, tender loving care.
Good evening, everyone. This is Pat Ridpath. I'm the communications director for our local Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I have with me Linda Gareth, who is our health ministries leader. And we're here at the invitation of Dr. Allman. He asked us to let you learn why and how we became so interested in health in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He's away for a while, and not only will we present some things this evening, but for the next 4 programs, David Meyer from the Glenville Seventh-day Adventist Church will be presenting a PowerPoint health messages that I think you'll enjoy. And I was here before when Dr. Allman interviewed us about Brushy Fork Christian School. So now we're just going to try to give you an overview of the medical ministry of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and why we do that. And in our worldwide paper, the magazine that goes worldwide to all is in 10 different languages, has a lot in it about health projects and health subjects. In the one for March, there was a editorial that talked about a vegan diet cutting the risk of prostate cancer. That was from Loma Linda University, one of our better known Seventh-day Adventist institutions. And since all the elections and things are going on, it's a lot of people have heard about Seventh-day Adventists that never heard about them before, and met Dr. Ben Carson, who was a neurologist that did that separation of those twins, and they're fine, healthy young men now because he did that. So you can find out more about Adventists over the world if you go to AdventistWorld.org, www.adventistworld.org. And so we're wanting to know why we emphasize health when most of the churches don't seem to do this. Well, God was interested in health from the very beginning. I like to think of God creating. It says in Psalm 33, 6 and 9, it says, "By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. For he spoke and it was done, he commanded and it stood fast." That's how he created the world, and that's how he created the animals. But when it came to man, it is just a beautiful picture to me to think that he got down on his hands and knees and molded Adam out of the clay and did this in his own image, and then he did almost like CPR. He breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. And then he even took Eve out of Adam's. He used a rib of Adam and built Eve around that. And so it showed that they were equal. It wasn't, Adam isn't better than Eve, but Eve came out of Adam, and then all the rest of the men come out of woman. So what did he do? God, at the very first of the Bible, in Genesis 2, in Genesis 1, in fact, verse 29, he says, I've given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, it shall be to you for food. Even the animals had green herbs for food. That was their food. He was interested in our diet. And Linda's going to tell us something.
Man lived nearly 1,000 years until the Great Flood, when vegetation was gone. But God had already designated which food would be healthy to eat and when they were to eat the animals. Before the flood, God sent into the ark 7 pairs of clean animals, knowing that man would have to use them for food until vegetation began to grow, with 2 pair of unclean animals, which were used for scavengers. They were the cleanup committee. And they'd keep the land and the earth all nice and clean. Also, in Leviticus 12 through 15, and in other places, God was very specific about what to do for childbirth, communicable diseases like leprosy, and other skin problems like isolation and mildew and so on, cleanliness, washing in water. He advised that insisted that man was not to eat the blood and the fat of animals, which most doctors today would agree is a very good idea. Healing and health is important in the Adventist Church because we strive to follow Jesus' example. If you'll notice, you'll find that Jesus Christ often healed before he taught. Whole villages were not a single sick person found in them, and he knew that to make them well, they could hear and understand better. Nearly 1/5 of the gospel accounts he devoted to Jesus' healing ministry and the discussion envisioned by it. Out of 3,779 verses in the 4 Gospels, 727 relate specifically to the healing of the physical and mental illnesses and the resurrection of the dead, except for a discussion of miracles in general. The attention devoted to the healing ministry of Jesus is far greater than that devoted to any other one kind of an experience. And if you're interested, you can find this in the Healing Ministry of Jesus by Gary Wynn's International House of Prayer Northeast. And you can also find it at www.ihopnw.org.
So we can look at
Your turn.
there sometimes. We have a verse from the Bible, 3 John 1, verse 2. It says, Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. And we don't have the paper with 1 Corinthians 2. That quote combines the well-being of the body with the well-being of the soul. We all have probably experienced the difficulty that we've had in singing or talking or speaking or whatever if we are a little under the weather or not feeling well. So the physical and the spiritual were intertwined in the ministry of the apostles too. They were to minister both to physical and spiritual, the healing and the preaching. for the people. This is consistent with the practice of the Lord. The practice of the apostles and the power they manifested needed to be consistent with and underscore the message of the kingdom. The book of Deuteronomy, for example, talks about God's blessing for obedience and to the health and to health and physical prosperity that they'll have if they're obedient to his laws. And why shouldn't he have laws and rules? It's just like he made us and he knows what is good for our bodies, and he left us a manual, and our manual is the Bible, and it tells about things that will help us to remain in health. Well, when he took the slaves out of Egypt, and they were in the traveling for 40 years, they had health. Their clothes didn't wear out. I mean, there were a lot of things the Bible tells us how God took care of them. When they would run out of water, he provided them water. And when they ran out of food, he provided food in the manna. He was interested in their health.
You were going to admit this.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Our church came out of a great awakening in the mid-1800s when Bible scholars from many continents came to believe that Jesus' second coming was imminent. The time indicated by Scripture was in October of 1844. When Jesus did not return as expected, the disappointment sent scholars back to the Bible to find out where they were mistaken. After much study, it was found that something important actually really did happen at the time, but it was not the second coming. Then, after more study and prayer and some visions from a young teenager, Ellen Harmon, who later married James White in the Northeast, the Adventists, as they called those who believed in the second coming was about to happen, began to understand the importance of what was happening in heaven in preparation for the second coming. The Baptists and the Methodists and others who had come together later became the Seventh-day Adventist Church. When a Baptist lady convinced some of the Adventists that the seventh day of the week was Sabbath, not the first day of the week, which has absolutely no Bible foundation.
And in this infant church, Ellen White expounded greatly on the subject of health and nutrition, as well as healthy eating and a balanced diet. Over the years, Adventist sanitariums were established around the country, and these sanitariums then evolved into hospitals, forming the backbone of the Adventist medical network. And in 1972, the Adventist health system was born. The beginning of this health ministry are found in a vision that White had in 1863. The vision was said to have occurred during a visit of James White and Ellen in Michigan, and they were trying to encourage the evangelistic workers there. And as the group bowed in prayer, Ellen reportedly had a vision that related to physical health and spirituality and the importance of following right principles in diet in the care of the body and benefits of natural remedies. The natural remedies are easy to remember: clean air, sunshine, exercise, and pure water. All of those things God has provided for us. It's getting a little harder to find it sometimes now, but previous to this vision, little thought had been given to health in the church. and several of the overtaxed ministers were forced to become inactive because of sickness. This revelation on June 6th of 1863 impressed upon the leaders of the newly organized church the importance of health reform. In the months that followed, as the health message was seen to be part of the message of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, a health educational program was inaugurated. The importance of health reform was greatly impressed upon the early leaders of the church through the untimely death of Henry White, a son of Ellen and James White, and even James White was forced to leave the work for 3 years, suffering from illness. And a lot of other ministers also, they were working themselves to death.
Early in 1866, responding to the instructions given to Ellen White on Christmas Day in 1865, the Seventh-day Adventists should establish a health institute for the care of the sick and the imparting of health instruction. Plans were laid for the Western Health Reform Institute, which opened in September of 1866. While the Whites were in and out of Battle Creek from 1865 to 1868, James White's poor physical condition led them to move to a small farm near Greenville, Michigan. White's idea of health reform included vegetarianism in a day and age where meat and 2 vegetables was the standard meal for a typical North American. Her health message inspired a health food revelation, starting with John Harvey Kellogg in his creation of cornflakes. The Sanitarium Health Food Company, as it is now known, was also started by this health principle. It is based on Ellen White's principle that Kellogg's differed from his brother's view on the sugar content of their cornflakes breakfast cereal. The latter started the Kellogg's Company. White championed a vegetarianism that was intended to be spiritually helpful with regard to the moral issues of the cruel treatment of animals.
And I want to insert in here that although all Adventists definitely are not vegetarians, and all vegetarians are not Seventh-day Adventists, and there's some who are vegan who don't even use the milk and eggs, and therefore they eliminate from their body some of the ill effects that those animal products can have on people. And this was not a matter of you have to do it if you want to be a Seventh-day Adventist. This was a matter of choice when you find out that you're healthier. I'm 82 years old. I have very little medication. I have a little high blood pressure, and that's about it. But, and I'm sure that's partly from trying to live a healthy diet that we were taught. We have had in the past, and they don't use it as much anymore, but we had an acronym, New Start. And this would help you remember these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rules of health, 8 natural remedies. And most everything you have, no matter what the problem, can be improved if you follow N for nutrition. What would you say is basically should be your nutrition, the foundation for your diet?
Well, you can start with drinking water. Water is very important. And you should drink, they say 68 glasses, but that's so general. To put it specifically down to the big people and little people, you drink 1 ounce for each like if you weighed 100 pounds, you would drink 50 ounces of water. And so this way, you know exactly how much you weigh, how much water you should do. And so you can start out with nutrition. Nutrition, you say, well, you start where you are. You don't want to make huge changes. You can just make small changes, and when you're comfortable with that, then change a little bit more. And then you'll be getting healthier and healthier.
I'm going to insert something here. One of the things, a change you can make without changing your diet really at all, is to just add something fresh at every meal. A piece of fruit, some celery and lettuce, a good salad, healthy, good greens in a salad is one of the best ways to do that. That's the N for nutrition. Then E in new is exercise. And every one of you out there knows that you should exercise. The best exercise is walking, but a whole lot of other things can be added to that. And then she was talking to you about W, the water. It is important.
Yes. And you know, I found when I was doing Vacation Bible School, I found out something I had never known before, even though I had majored in foods and nutrition in college, is the fact that if you eat something fresh to start with, your very first bite, you eat something fresh, that get digestive juices working, that will not start at all if you don't start with something fresh. I thought that was astounding.
See, that's interesting. And then the S in start is sunshine.
Oh, yes. You know, sun is so important. This is where we get our vitamin D. And so you don't want to be afraid of going out in the sunshine.
It doesn't take a lot, though, does it,
You
Linda?
know, the lighter you are, the less you need. If you have very fair skin, 5 minutes will give you all you need, perhaps. But if you're very dark, like if you happen to be black, then you want to have a half an hour minimum. So somewhere in between there, you can find where you are and get enough vitamin D, and then if you feel the need, you can put some sunscreen on.
And like the T in start of New Start is temperance. And one of the things I want to emphasize, we know what temperance is. Stay away from drugs and alcohol and smoking and caffeine. I know that hurts everybody who hears me. That's I shouldn't say that. But caffeine is not a good food, and even the students in here in Buchanan were doing some experiments, and they experimented on and found out that caffeine really is addictive. And I read it in our local paper. But temperance in everything. Don't eat too much of even the good things. Use our heads. That's what God gave them to us for. And then the A in START is air.
Oh, we need good air, don't we? Good oxygen. You know, they found out that you get more help just before a storm or just after a storm.
Yeah.
You get more, they've done tests.
And the air becomes ionized. Is that what it is?
Right.
I'm probably saying that wrong.
Your intellect goes up. You'll do better on tests and what you remember and all.
And then the R is for rest. How many of us get 8 hours of sleep at night? Or even 7, maybe even 6. But we really do need it to rejuvenate. And God has given us the seventh day of the week as a day of rest for the benefit of our whole body. And T is trust in the divine. So New Start, think of that. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trust in the divine. If you followed these things the way the Bible will tell you to do, if you read it and think about this, will keep you healthy, make you healthy, and keep you healthy.
Right. And
Doesn't mean you won't have some colds or something. We all do, but we live in that world. But we're preparing for a world where there will be none of that, no sickness or pain or disease or killing or anything.
I just wanted to mention, if you ever feel like getting off of coffee, don't do it all at once. You'll feel horrible. What you want to do is, one day you just count how much you drink. And the next day you drink a half a cup less. And you keep doing this, half a cup less every day, and before you know it, you won't have to have any at all, and you'll feel so much better. You'll wake up in the morning fresher and more alive.
So,
You'll really feel better. You said had something you wanted
yes,
to say?
there was just one thing that I wanted to mention is mental health is part of what the Bible will give you. If you are really upset in your life, find places to read in Psalms. Read the book of John or the little 3 books of John. Read something that will bring peace to your heart. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." King James says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusteth in thee." So I hope you'll enjoy David Meyer in the next 4 Tuesdays as he presents some other health messages. This is why we have that in the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Thank you.
Stories of a West Virginia Doctor, written by Dr. Harold D. Allman. A collection of 55 short stories about his experience as a small-town doctor in central West Virginia. And Tender Loving Care. Stories from a West Virginia Doctor, Volume 2, written by Dr. Greenbrier Allman, using videotapes to write 70 additional stories of his father's very colorful life as a small-town doctor. They can be found for purchase at Amazon.com and most local bookstores. Tune into Channel 3 Buckhannon for Tender Loving Care with Dr. Greenbrier Allman, where he talks about the connection between Christianity and medicine.